Hi, this is Gabriella with Moon Mushrooms, and today I will be showing you how to make an airport style lid. Basically, they're do-it-yourself at-home method. You don't have to go out and buy your own grain spawn jars. This is what it'll look like when it's completed. You have a mason jar. You can choose your own size that you want to experiment with. You drill 2 holes in the lid of the mason jar. One, you kind of clump a bead of the silicone in one hole for your injection port, and then another hole is filled with the polyfill, making an air filter. You really just need a few ingredients: some polyfill, the inside of teddy bears, some canning jars. We'll be using 34 ounce as well as 24 ounce canning jars. Some high temperature RTV silicone. Mine's red. Doesn't need to be red, but it does need to be high temperature. And then a drill with a drill bit or 2. The drill bits I'm using are 3/16 and 1/4 inch. Airport style lids can be very essential when it comes to mushroom cultivation. I use airport style lids mainly in grain spawn work. So you have your injection needle filled with my myceliated liquid culture, and you can inject your needle into the silicone port, allowing for a very clean injection with very little contamination risk, and then just pop it back out. And then I also use kind of a modified airport lid without the silicone port, but with the air filter for growing for fruiting substrate. So I think that having reusable jars or containers for fruiting, to put fruiting substrate in as you're growing or cultivating mushrooms, is a really important thing to think about. So I'm experimenting with using the jars. These airport style lids were developed by user Hippie3 on Mycotopia a few years back. So let's get to it. First things first is to just drill a hole. I'll be drilling with my 1/4 inch bit size first, which will be the silicone injection port site hole. This is a little bit larger of a hole than the air filter hole, just because you want to kind of allow yourself enough space for the needle to enter in without worrying about it too much. So when I make these lids, I want to have 1 hole on one side, 1 hole on the other side, leaving myself just enough room. And I also, when I drill these, I just leave the lids on the mason jar. I found that to be the easiest method. So drilling with a 1/4 inch bit, my silicone injection sites. You want to have a really firm grasp and just go straight in and out. Cool. I'll do the same thing with my other jar. It's okay if it's not perfect. So there we have our first holes with 1/4 inch drill bit sizes for the silicone. Next we will do 3/16 holes for our air filters just on the other side. So we'll do the same thing. That's fun. Nothing like good technical difficulty in my tutorial. That's okay. Make sure you fasten your drill bits really well into your drill. Things are bound to go wrong when you cultivate mushrooms. It's learning to live with chaos. Okay, let's try that again. Round 2. Whoa, all right. And second jar. Okay, there we have 2 holes in each jar. So we have 2 holes in our jar lids. one is the smaller hole for the air filter. So this is a 3/16 inch size that will put the polyfill twisted in. And then the other hole is a 1/4 inch size hole for the silicone injection port. And now we're going to fill them up. So you can just take off the jar lids. First we'll fill them with polyfill. There's lots of different ways you can provide air filters for your mushrooms when you're cultivating them. I've had this bag of polyfill for like 6 years now. Mushrooms need air. They need air to breathe. So in their growing environments, you always need to provide them air filters somehow. You can't just have open holes of air. That provides lots of possible contamination, or like little critters or dust molecules could get in. So pinch a little bit of polyfill off, and then just kind of start to work with it and knot it up a little bit, maybe twist it. You want it to be really tightly packed into your air filter hole. So you want the smaller hole, the 3/16 inch filter that we drilled. And you want to be careful because when you do drill, sometimes pieces of metal kind of get splayed out on the edge, and they are pretty sharp. So that's one of the reasons why I kind of tried to drill in a circle as I was drilling. But it's fine, just be careful. You might end up with a little bit of blood on your fingers. So I pinched through the top of my lid. Once you got just like a good clump, pinch some polyfill through the hole. And this part, you're just have to get a little used to this part of pulling your polyfill through. So it's nice and snug. Pull some off if you have too much. So you want to give it a good pull. That's pretty good. Perfect to use. So the next step is using your high temperature silicone to make a gooey glob around your hole that you've drilled. So it's super important to try to smooth out the edges when you do this so that the rough edges of the silicone blob don't break at any point, leaving possibilities for contamination in your injection port. So I just kind of squeeze a little bit on one side in a circular motion. Really smoothing out the port. Flip it over. Add some more. Smooth out the edges, trying to make them flush with the lid as much as you can. It will help you in the future, making these lids more durable and long-lasting. This is kind of a harder one. It's okay if you need to add a lot. There we go. It's kind of like putting a topping on a dessert. There we go. That looks pretty good. A little messy, but that's okay. And then you just leave it to dry for maybe a night or a day. You want to make sure they're dry before you use these ports as injection sites. So you can leave it on here to dry. The air port lid with 2 holes can be used for liquid culture as well as grain spawn use. And then an air port lid with just 1 hole can be used for fruiting substrate jars. And then, of course, before you use these jars that you just drilled in, you do want to clean them out since there are little bits of metal inside. That's that. Hope you enjoy your airport style lids. I find them very handy. Thanks for listening.